Dr. Sri Rotary Club of Salt Lake Metropolitan Kolkata, Dr. Archana Goel, Rotary Club of Salt Lake Midtown, Ruma Bhattacharya, and Rotary Club of Salt Lake Silicon Valley, Obishita Bhattacharya. Thank you to all these clubs and all the presidents for joining in, and I hope it's going to be a very useful session this evening. And our speaker will speak for half an hour. She's agreed. And then beyond that, we are going to open the floor. It is going to be moderated by past President Shubhajit Roy. You can ask as many questions as you want. Thank you. Over to you, Ruma.
A very good evening, and at the outset, Shubha Bijaya and Bijaya Pranam to all. And I am so delighted and excited and honored to be among the most interesting crowd, the intellects, the people who serve the society, the proud Rotarians. And I'm so glad so many, almost all clubs have female presidents. My God, that's something great, good. Kolkata leads the way in everything. So, I am here today. The topic is, of course, make mental health for all a global priority. Thanks for such a lovely introduction, Pinky Bodhi Shamushri. And, so today the spotlight is going to be on me. No, the spotlight is going to be on mental health. So I guess tomorrow you people are going ahead with your polio eradication program. All the very best for this. And, I am here to eradicate myths about mental illnesses and the stigma associated. So I guess I will do some justice to the given topic. We all know what is health. And when we talk about health, we are mainly concerned with physical health. But mental health and spiritual health always takes the backseat. We are always talking about blood pressure, diabetes, thyroids, cancer, cardiac diseases, renal diseases. But, the most important part of the human body is the brain, the human brain. We are human because we have this magnificent brain that, controls our thoughts, feelings, emotions, judgment, reasoning, logical thinking, abstract thinking, arithmetic skills, science, everything. So this human brain is really unique, and humans are the most developed of the species because of this brain. And to be very honest, our emotions make us human and make us humane. So someone has written very beautifully, actually in a Rotary magazine, The Mind Matters by District 3030, we humans are differentiated from other species due to this powerful attribute. We all experience multiple emotions every day. Every situation initiates a thought, which leads to some emotion and generates some response. Emotions are attached to a lot of things like people's value, religion, spirituality, patriotism, political ideologies, and so many other diverse factors. It is easy for us to get, emotionally influenced, motivated, or even misdirected. So what do we think that mental health is? So, of course, the first thing that comes to our mind is being happy. If you want to be mentally healthy, you want to be happy. You want to be satisfied. You want to be content. You want to have the emotional strength, the grit, setting right priorities, being successful in life. This is what we think of, mental health. How to be mentally healthy. But not always. It is okay to be not so happy sometimes. It is okay to be sad. It is okay to be low sometimes. It is okay to be anxious. It is okay to have some sleepless nights. We all go through these emotions. But how do we cope with the stresses? So WHO defines mental health a mentally healthy individual as a state of well-being in which an individual realizes his or her own abilities, can cope with normal stresses of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make contribution to the community, to the society, like we Rotarians do. So there's so many myths about mental illnesses. Actually, like I said, I am part of the stigma and mental health committee of Psychiatry Federation. So my job is to destigmatize things associated with mental illnesses. So a lot of people think that, mental illness, especially in India, we think that someone who is mentally ill or is a little crazy, we think past karma, or something this person has done bad, so is facing these problems. Many a times, especially in my part of the country, they always think someone has done some jadoo tona, किसी ने कुछ खिला पिला दिया है, someone has done some black magic, that is why this person is behaving abnormally or is behaving crazy. So many myths are associated with mental illness. And the worst part is, what? When we come across a person who is going through some mental problem, it might be as simple as depression, but as difficult as depression. We know that the person is like behaving not so normally for a few days, since a few days. The person is dull, not talking much, or is avoiding work or studies. His or her sleep or appetite has changed. We look at it. We sometimes, observe that things are changing, but we don't acknowledge it, that it might be due to some emotional problem and we must take a professional help. Our country, in fact, the whole world, in the whole world, every 40 seconds, a person is dying because of suicide. Our country is now the leading capital of suicide. And why does a person die of suicide? It is because of this long-standing depression. And the symptoms are so obvious, but because of lack of awareness, or because of the stigma that if you take to a psychiatrist or for counseling, people will think that this person is, my family member or my child or my partner or my parents. They are not, mentally strong, emotionally strong. So we try to give our own suggestions, our own advice. But at the same time, if someone is having a fever for more than a day or two, or is having, vomiting, or is having stomach ache or body ache or headache, splitting headaches, we immediately rush to the doctor. But in case of emotional problems, we all turn into, counselors, and we are very ready to give advice on our own. It is good to talk to people. It is good to know that what is the problem? Is the person going through some stress? Is the person going through some emotional challenge? But we all have our limitations, don't we? We can't be, we don't know the magic of every trait. So we need professional help. Depression is the leading cause of suicide. And you all would be aware that, the young age group, say from 17, 18 years to 39, 40 years, worldwide and in India, people are dying. The most common cause of death of this young age group is not any disease, as in not any physical disease, but emotional problems, mental health issues. And the most common are mood disorders, whether it is depression, whether it is bipolar mood disorder. We all remember when COVID started, we had lost this Bollywood star, Sushant Singh Rajput, who died of suicide. Every day there's a news, either in the television or in the print. We see changes in that person's behavior. We see changes in the person's personality, but something holds us back to take proper advice in time. There's so many emotional problems. If we talk about, neurotic problems in which sometimes the person is aware that the person is going through some problems, like the person may be phobic, or the person gets anxious on little things. The person, has this obsessive compulsive disorder, is continuous, especially during the COVID times. The 2 years have been a roller coaster ride for everyone across the world. The pandemic has brought forth the need of mental health help. The pandemic has started so many good things as well. Since the pandemic began, people started talking about mental health as well, because people were all locked down. People were working from home or had lost their jobs. There were so many challenges and stresses. And at that time, depression, anxiety, phobias, these all came out in the open. People were coming forward seeking help. This is when India also started this online consultation, which is a boon, because people could not travel at that time. And even now, people are taking follow-up online if they can't reach the doctor. Then there is this disorder, which is called schizophrenia, which is a psychotic disorder in which people have, some delusions. They will have some doubts that someone is following me, someone is observing me. Recently, I had this young girl brought to me who had not come out of her room since over a year. She had lost some 20 kgs in the past 1 year. And I was surprised that why the parents could not, come and consult earlier. So they said, because it was COVID and she was used to this being in home, she was a 20-year-old girl. She's reduced from 52 kgs to 32 kgs now. So she was, she was studying from home, and because of COVID, because of this fear of contamination, she would not move out of her room. She would not go outside. She would be constantly, washing her hands, taking bath for 3 to 4 hours daily. And when the apartment that she lives in, that society people started complaining that, there's so much of water shortage because this particular apartment is using most of the water. So that is how they were forced to come to a psychiatrist. So what I'm trying to say is we have examples everywhere around us, almost every day. But because of lack of awareness, or because, of the stigma attached, we tend to, or mainly because of lack of awareness, these things don't get the priority help that they need. So now this young girl who is now 32 kgs, a 20-year-old young girl who is not sleeping well, has lost appetite, has stopped studying because the whole time she is having this fear of contamination, is so particular with her hygiene that she's spending like 8 to 10 hours in washing herself, cleaning herself, bathing, continuously washing her hands. So we all know this is obsessive compulsive disorder. But what happens is 1 year is a long time. Any disease, any problem, if you treat at the stage 1, when it starts, it's much easier to deal with it. Even for that matter, this horrible sounding cancer disease, if you diagnose in stage 1, it is so easy to treat, to get better, right? I was talking about schizophrenia, yeah. So in this, there are delusions. There are disturbance in the thoughts. Sometimes people also experience these hallucinations. They can see things which others can't see. They can hear voices. They have disturbed sleep. They behave bizarre. Because they hear voices, they will talk to themselves. So people think, okay, this person, we don't know why he is talking to himself or herself. And many a times, schizophrenia or psychotic problems also start at a very young age, in the teenage. Like there is this IIT pass out, a gold medalist from an IIT. The parents came to me few months back, saying that, he got so many campus selections. He was getting like 4 crore, 3 crore annual packages. But every time he joins a job, in a few weeks, he will, discontinue and will not work. So eventually, when I took their history, when I came to know, they said, my son was so good in academics since childhood. He was always topping in the class. He was always a topper. He had no bad habits. He would not roam around with friends. We had no problem when he was a kid, when he was a school student. In IIT also, he has done so well. But we don't know, since last 3 years, he's not able to, continue with any work. He's not able to continue with any job. And now, since more than a year, he is home and he doesn't want to go out. So I asked, did he have friends while he was in school? They said, not really. He was always involved in studies. I said, did he have any interest, any hobbies? They said, not really. Academics was his only hobby. So the parents were very happy with their son. But they didn't realize that the son had social anxiety disorder. The son was having social phobia. Eventually, when I met that young guy, he had no eye contact. Then he gradually opened up and said, yeah. He remembers that since he was 10 years, 11 years age, he would get really anxious. He would really get anxious about meeting people. So he would just go to school, come back from school, attend his coaching, and not do any activity. And the parents would think that, wow, our son is so focused. He's so academically oriented. So he could do very well in school. He also pulled through college with brilliant marks. But when it came to facing real life, when it came to, dealing with people, when he had to meet people, he had to interact with people, then his social anxiety overtook him, and, he could not sustain in any job. He could not persist in any job because he would get so anxious. He did he continued maximum. He could continue for a month while it was work from home. So, this lack of awareness, this young lad could have been treated, counseled, given some therapy while he was a child, because he remembers that while he was in class 5th, 4th, he remembers how anxious he used to get when relatives would come. So he would be always, his parents would always tell, oh, he is busy with his studies. He is little shy. He's a very decent, sober guy. He doesn't like to interact. But ultimately now he's facing this problem where he is not able to come out of the house. He's not able to interact with people. He's not able to do any job, in spite of having such a great academic background. So mental health issues are ignored because of, again, lack of awareness. Many a times, like these parents, they knew that he is, he loves solitude, he loves to be alone, he's focused, but they always try to cover it up, saying that he was so focused in studies. So mental health matters, doesn't it? After all, humans are humans, like I said, because of our emotions. But when our emotions go wrong, when we are unable to cope with the challenges of everyday life, when we are unable to lead a normal, so-called, productive life, then we have to take, step, and we have to reach out. And the theme is making mental health for all a global priority, is about raising awareness about mental health issues, encouraging action, renewing our commitment to come out of the closet, talk to people. So how can we all contribute in creating awareness? Like today we are, having this Zoom meeting, and we are talking about mental health. So we should always try to reach out to people around us, in our family, with our colleagues, with our house help, with our drivers, with everyone. We have to ask, how are you doing? Are you facing any problem? It is just, 2-3 sentences. If we can reach out to people, we can know, if something is going wrong with them. Lot of times, because, people are keeping it to themselves, they don't want to talk about it. They feel that, if they say that they are feeling lonely, or they're feeling sad, or they are not feeling up to the mark, people would label them as either being lazy, or, being, having a low will, low determination. So usually people try to keep their emotions to themselves. We always try to project our happy selves. Today, with the digital media and with the social networking sites, everyone tries to be, to project oneself as happy, happening, always smiling in the pics. But deep inside, everyone in today's world sometimes can go through loneliness, can go through depression, can go through anxiety. It is okay to talk to our close ones, to our friends. Do not refrain from talking about mental health issues. Prince Harry has recently said that the experience I have had is that once you start talking about experiencing a mental health struggle, you realize that actually you are part of a big club. That is what he wrote. I would say what others have said. It ultimately gets better. One day you will find your tribe. You just have to trust that people are out there waiting to love you and celebrate you for who you are. In the meantime, the reality is you might have to be your own tribe. You have to be your own best friend. And that's not something or someone will teach you. So first, start loving yourself. And when you start loving yourself and you're open with yourself, you can be open with others. So many celebrities now are coming out with their mental health struggles. And this is helping in raising the awareness. Just 3 days back, a father came to me. He's in his late 40s. He said he wanted to discuss about his daughter, who is 16. So I asked, what are the issues you think your daughter is facing? So he said, my daughter used to be very good in academics. Now she's in class 11th, 9th and 10th was almost, study from home, online classes. Now that 11th is all offline and she has to go and attend school, she now avoids going to school. She is losing her focus and attention in studies. She says she doesn't like the school anymore. She doesn't want to talk to her friends. So ultimately, the daughter was brought to me. When I interacted with the daughter, a very sweet girl, sweet looking girl, then she revealed to me that, she had lost her mother when she was just 1.5 years old. So she and her father lives. Unfortunately, the father was associated in a society and someone did some fraud in the society, and he had to be, spend 3-4 months in jail. So this young girl last year had to spend those 3-4 months with her Jethu's place, in her Jethu's place. And there she started feeling anxious. She felt that she's lonely. She felt that, there's no one who is concerned about her. And at the same time, the pandemic was on and she was homebound. Then many a times, if she could not do some like simple chores like, putting the utensil on place or not making her bed, her Jethima would pass some negative comments. Oh, look, she once heard her Jethima and Jethu talk that, oh, look, like she is like her mother. Her mother was so lazy and she would not be interested in work. This girl doesn't remember her mother because she was not even 2 months old when the mother expired. Since then, her depression started, since last year. Now she has suicidal thoughts. She wants to avoid people. She doesn't talk to people. She doesn't talk to friends. Later, I came to know from the father that her mother, his wife, had died of suicide. And most likely it was postpartum depression. She had died of suicide 1.5 months after she gave birth to this little girl. So at that time, like 17 years back, the in-laws, the husband was not aware that something like that exists. They knew that she could not take care of the infant. She could not, feed the child properly. She would be gloomy. She couldn't do the household work. But they thought that maybe she doesn't like to, do childcare. And ultimately, one day she hanged herself. What I'm trying to say here is this, that number one, depression or mood disorders can be genetic, can be hereditary. Number two, if it is unacknowledged, undiagnosed, untreated, it can really be fatal. So now how do we actually, make ourselves strong enough? Or how do we take care of our mental health? That is the issue. So the simple step, like I said, is to talk about our emotions, to talk about our feelings, to talk about how we are, feeling, what we are experiencing. What is happening these days is even in a house, we are just 3 or 4 or 2 people, but we don't communicate. We might be talking to each other, but honestly, there is no open communication. So we have to start. Charity begins at home. So we have to start with ourselves. We have to start from within the family. Then we have to reach out to our neighbors, to our relatives, to our close friends, to people around us. So this is how we can destigmatize about emotional problems. This is how we can set a platform where people can share emotions. And I believe that even if one person, understands the fact that talking to someone who is in need can help that person. And ultimately, like I said, we should talk, we should learn about others, we should know that they're going through problems. We can advise, but we should take step in time to reach to a professional, because that person may be going through long-standing problem. And the emotional response, the behavior pattern may be evident recently. But most of the emotional issues, take weeks to develop, months to develop. Like I'm also the part of geriatric mental health. We are all are aging, and geriatric population also has tremendous mental health issues, right from mood disorders to anxiety to insecurities, even to something called dementia, where there is forgetfulness, where there's loss of memory, where we can't do things which we used to do so easily earlier. So there's so many things to talk about, but I know we can go on, and I really don't want to, bore all of you pre-Diwali. So I would be happy to, answer any questions anyone has or anyone wants to interact. So I guess let's all start talking about mental health. Let's keep the spotlight on mental health. Whenever we interact, we must know how that person, what that person is going through. This is the first tiny step we all can take. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ruma. That was very, very interesting. And coming to the Q&A session, I think that's going to be also interesting. I will hand over to past President Rotarian Shubhajit to conduct the Q&A.
Thank you, past President Chunandoda. Well, there's already a question, Dr. Ruma, for you on the chat box. And Rotarian past President Ruma Prasad Dotto wants you to talk about success or revival stories. Maybe one in your case that would be quite positive for us.
Yes, that is very, very important. And I mean, I have so many stories to tell, where people do come out of their mental health issues, do come out of their emotional challenges and do well in life. Like, I had this very, very young boy, like hardly 9 years, 10 years, aged boy was brought to me by his parents while he was in his class 5. And his parents were working. Both of them were working as government teachers. And the parents would say that he would repeatedly, call his mother to check out on her. How is she doing? Is everything all right? Initially, when this started happening, she used to feel nice that my son remembers me so much, and he calls me up like every hour. But then gradually this thing increased. He would call like every half an hour, 40 minutes, and gradually this became a very repetitive behavior. So when they brought the child to me, the child told me, the young boy told me that he has this severe anxiety that while going to school, the mother might have met an accident, or the mother might become ill in school. So all these negative thoughts and negative emotions would haunt him. And that is why he would make this repeated phone calls to the mother. And because she was a teacher, she would, get affected by, disturbed by the phone calls the son would make. And eventually, like, it was too much for them to handle. And they really thought that he needs some help. So
Okay, we've lost your video. Ruma, we have lost your video. I think
is the video on?
No, yeah, now
you're
yes.
back.
Thank you.
Okay,
You're back now,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah, there was an incoming call. Sorry for that. So
Yeah, okay.
so so these unwanted, irrational thoughts were haunting the child, and he would get really worried and agitated. So this was the start of this obsessive compulsive disorder. And they, they came from a very small town near Bhopal. But because they were teachers and they were aware that he could be going through some emotional issues, they brought him. And eventually he was given therapies, he was treated. And, obsessive compulsive disorder is a very difficult thing to actually deal with. So it took almost 5 years for this child to come out of his OCD. And then he became all right. And now he did his engineering. Though when he entered engineering, he had a relapse in which he went through depression. But ultimately, he did his engineering, he did his MBA from IIM, and now he's working, and he still consults me, sometimes once or twice a year to know that he's doing okay. But now he's very happy, and I'm also so happy that, he was suffering from severe obsessive compulsive disorder. The obsession was this repeated irrational thoughts, and the compulsion was making phone calls, checking on the mother, sometimes leaving his school and going to check on his mother in her school. And later, that compulsion decreased, and then he would have this fear of the number 3, then it turned into fear of number 13, then later it turned to be fear of this color red. So anytime he would see this color red, he would get anxious. So he had severe OCD, and it started at the age of 9 years of age. And usually obsessive compulsive disorder symptoms traits start pretty early, and it is so often undiagnosed, untreated. So this is a success story, and he's doing really good in life. I mean, I've seen him since his 9 years of age, and now he's like 26. So it's good.
Great. There's one more question from past president Rotarian Rakesh Bhatia. He asks you how to actually find out about mental health problem, and is there any test to confirm this?
Yes, that's a very important question. Thank you for this one. Look, human behavior, everyone has a different personality. Everyone's behavior may be different at the same, incidents, or in a same situation. Everyone may react differently, but still we have a normal range of behavior. Like human beings are social animals, So the most important thing is, like, we live in a society. We need to be socially communicative. So when the most important thing, like I said, humans are humans because of our emotions. So whenever we see that this social behavior is getting altered, or a person's behavior in a span of days and weeks has changed, these are the red flags. Like just today, just before our session started, a doctor couple came to me, and they were very disturbed because their 3.5-year-old son has been recently diagnosed with autistic spectrum disorder. So in this, we all know that there is this problem with communication, social interaction. So what I'm trying to say is social behavior is a very important sign. If you see or observe someone who is like, avoiding people, not talking enough, or enough in the sense, not communicating, there is a change in sleep and appetite patterns, there is a change in the routine of the person, this person is sleeping, getting up late, or is feeling dull and drowsy throughout the day, or is not sleeping at all. All these little signs are something which we should be concerned about. And, with smartphones, everyone is hooked onto their mobiles with the social networking sites, YouTubes and everything. And we are all hampering our sleep cycle. Like, because I'm also heading the sleep psychiatry committee nationally, sleep is the most important indicator whether you are mentally healthy or whether you can land up into a mental or an emotional problem. So it is very important to sleep well and to sleep on time. Our brain, our circadian rhythm is tuned so that we sleep by, say, between 9:30 and 10:30, get up between 5:30, 6:30, maximum 7. But not only in the cities, even in villages, because of the internet and because of smartphones now, even people coming from small villages and, interiors, they also have now disturbed sleep cycle, and problem with falling asleep or maintaining a good sleep or frequent awakenings or early morning awakenings. These are also very important signs, because this can be the first indicator of emotional problems as well. Because if a person is sleep deprived for long, that person may go through mood changes, that person may go through mood swings, can become psychotic, can become, dependent on drugs like, smoking or alcohol or other substance. So sleep hygiene is very, very important.
Thank you. Past President Shunandada has a question. Online consultation, is it effective?
Yes, online, like how we are interacting. You people are in Kolkata and I'm in Bhopal, though it can never, compete with face-to-face interaction. It can never, be like a physical experience, but virtual consultation is also good enough. And the most important and the most especially in our psychiatry and in our mental health profession, this is very important because there's so few psychiatrists in India. 7,000 psychiatrists for 140 crore population. Most of the psychiatrists are based in big cities. So how do we reach to people who are far in distant places and in remote areas? Like now my practice in the evenings is mainly online consultations for people coming who used to come from remote areas. And thanks to pandemic, this online consultation has helped so many people, especially in small towns and small villages. Like, let me tell you, in Madhya Pradesh, I'm based in Bhopal, which is the capital. But if you go like 50 kilometers, 100 kilometers from Bhopal, there's no psychiatrist. And people go through problems. And since last 20 years, I'm doing this free mental health camps in remote areas. I do it even now, every month. But many a times, it is very difficult for patients from far off places to travel, because for one patient, at least 2 attendants have to come. They have to hire a cab or taxi. It becomes very costly for them. So it is effective, and it helps. It has helped a lot of people.
President Madhushmita Sengupta has a question. For geriatric, is it okay to use drugs to sleep regularly, for sleep regularly?
I mean, it has to, the person has to consult, and it has to be a prescribed drug, because what happens usually, like in my practice also, once I prescribe something for sleep, say for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, the person comes to me after 3 years that I've been taking that medication, So this is what happens, and then the person becomes drug dependent. So sleep is a requirement of the brain and the body. Sleep is very essential to charges for throughout the day. So sleep has a mechanism. Sleep induction, sleep maintenance, sleep arousal. This is a mechanism. It's a process. So what is the reason for insomnia or disturbed sleep has to be, evaluated, and appropriate drug. Just because someone else is taking some drug, someone else cannot use that same drug. And it has to be a prescribed drug. It has to be taken for a particular period of time.
The next question has already come in. Just scroll through the. Okay, Pritam has a question. He's our club member. Do you believe men are more reluctant to speak about mental health issues?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially in our country, men are supposed to be strong. Men are supposed to be, taking charge of things. So they are not supposed to cry. Boys don't cry. That video really got circulated a lot. Yes, but nowadays things are changing. Men are also coming out and talking about their emotions. But usually, even now, it is difficult for men to, I see men coming to me, and just today itself in the morning, this man came to me, and the moment he sat and he started like crying out loud, and he said he hadn't cried out. He doesn't remember when he had cried last. So they try to keep their emotions, bottled inside. And like we all know about this person who died of suicide, the Coffee Cafe Day owner, So he was going through depression for a pretty long time, but he had not expressed it for months and years. So it is important. We all are humans, male, female, transgenders. Everyone has to open up, share their emotions, If there is a problem, if there is a challenge, seek help in time. If you can't talk, if you feel shy or you feel inhibited in some way in talking to someone in your family, please consult professionally. To someone who is non-judgmental, who is not related to you, can also be very helpful.
Past President Rakesh wants to ask you a question on a one-to-one basis. Rakesh, kindly unmute yourself.
Subhajit, thanks. Thanks, ma'am, for such a wonderful insight story of the things we are all seeing. My main question is, because I've been very closely associated with few patients like this, and I've seen, first you go to, if there is a problem, you go to a psychiatrist. He comes immediately with medicines, and those medicines keep increasing 1, then 2, then 3, and then 4, and then you get hooked.
Oh my God.
No, but that's a fact. You will agree. You get hooked to it. And then secondly, someone comes and advises, so, why are you going to go to the psychiatrist? Take him to a psychologist. Now, this psychologist should have been first, but the psychiatrist never speaks that you should go to a psychologist. I asked the doctor, because this is for a very close friend of mine, and friend means his son, and I faced this, and then this psychiatrist never explained that you can go to a psychologist. The psychologist really helped this guy out of the medicines. So, I wanted to ask you something, that ultimately a lot of people land up in the hospital, where in the asylum or maybe in the revival place, they meet together. Why can't we form a small club where people really with a lot of problems like this sit together, have a cup of tea, because they will understand each other better. And few people like you, you can sit and chat with them. That would be an enlightenment session. So this is my request, Thanks.
Yeah, very well said. But that's a very unfortunate if something like this has happened. What happens is, like in our country and especially in our society, what I've seen in my last 20 years of practice is that clients reach, after months and years of going through agony. The problem is, you very rightly said, psychologists can help, but only when, it is the initial stages. I was talking to you about mental health illnesses and mental health disorders. So when it becomes a disorder, like, a cardiologist will tell you to go for walks, to do diet control, not to smoke, not to drink, have a routine lifestyle, exercise regularly. But if you have a cardiac problem, if you have a cardiac disease, you need to take medication. Unfortunately, when we talk about mental health, again, there is this myth that psychiatric medicines have side effects, that psychiatric medicines make you dependent on drugs. So one, this is a myth. Second, this happens because, like I said, because of lack of awareness. Like even I said, talk to you about this IIT guy, he was going through social anxiety since he was not 10 years. And he's brought to me when he's almost 27. So what I'm trying to say is, emotional problems are always pushed under the carpet. Either they don't seek help, or they give their own advice. And when these traits become a disorder, when these traits become a disease and it hampers their ability to earn, then they reach a psychiatrist. You wouldn't believe, even today in a place like Bhopal, which is the capital, females are not brought to psychiatrists because they don't earn. They go through more emotional problems. And in my practice, though I have a lot of female patients, but what I'm trying to say is, this lady was brought to me last month, a 55-year-old lady, with shriveled look, unhygienic. Her hair had tangled into this bun of, tangled hair. And the husband told me that, yeah, she has been talking to herself since last 20 years, but she cooks the food. She does the household work, but now she's talking out loud and now she started abusing. So this lady was suffering from schizophrenia. And now, because she is unable to cook food and take care of the house, now the husband brings her. Luckily, just in a few months of treatment, she has become absolutely normal. She was hallucinating for years and years together. So what I'm trying to say is that, number one, people reach very late, and when they have to be given administered medicine because it's become a disorder. And disorder is something, I mean, when there is a chemical change in the brain, when there's a change in the neurocircuitry of the brain, when like someone who is pre-diabetic, you can, advise the person that cut down on your sugar, exercise regularly, do diet control. But when a person is a diabetic, now you have to give medicine to control the diabetes. Same emotional problems are mostly hormonal problems. Hormones released in the brain. So when it is when there are initial symptoms, when those traits can be dealt with psychotherapies, counseling, talk therapies, most of the population don't reach us. That is where the problem is. But fortunately, many a times when clients come to me and I tell them, look, you don't require, your son or your child doesn't require any medication. It is actually you people who need counseling, or this child needs counseling. And actually, because of, so many patients and so few psychiatrists are always overloaded. So they don't do the counseling or psychotherapies themselves. But I do, because I limit my practice. I only see a few patients with appointments. But most of the psychiatrists don't do psychotherapies or counseling themselves. Then they should refer to a psychologist or counselor if there is a need. And just reverse to this is also there's so many psychologists and many self-proclaimed psychologists who are not clinical psychologists. They will keep the patient to themselves even when they know that this person is schizophrenic or this person is suicidal. They don't refer to psychiatrists. This happens more often than a psychiatrist not referring to a psychologist. It should be a teamwork, you very rightly said, and what model you said is the ideal model. And I do group therapies personally, like OCD patients once a week will meet together, and then they feel okay, they are not alone who are suffering through this problem. Exactly. People with phobia. So this is very helpful. Team therapy, group therapy helps a lot.
Ma'am, is there any test to find this out? Is there any test, like we have a blood test to say you are a diabetic, you have a pump, to say you have a BP. Is there a blood test or something like this to find this out? It's because, it's all on diagnose, Some doctor says, okay, you take this, some say this, some psychologists say you do this way. But is there a real test for this?
Oh, it all depends like what problem you are going through, because, emotions are something which are happening inside the brain, but what it projects is your behavior. So these are behavioral issues, right? So with your behavior pattern only you can be diagnosed. But there are certain things like personality disorders or schizophrenia. There are definite psychometric tests. And even for a common thing, depression has become very common these days, with Deepika Padukone talking about it, with Virat Kohli talking about it, and so many people, which is good, Priyanka Chopra talking about it. So even for depression, we have this Hamilton rating scales, and there are these psychometric tests. But usually the psychometric tests are done by psychologists. So when we have a doubt that whether this person is clinically suffering from a mental disorder or these are just traits or there is an overlap of symptoms, then we do refer to psychologists. Unfortunately, trained clinical psychologists are very, very few. So many a times, even when you want to administer a test, you can't.
Thank you so much.
Rotarian Leena Das Ghosh has requests you to give a few tips to how to keep mental health in control in our day-to-day activities.
Oh, that's really the most important question, actually. So how to be mentally healthy? Mental health has components. It is the different components. There are 4 components of mental health, basically. It is physical, cognitive, emotional, and social. So, I mean, mind and body, the brain and the body are part of the same train. So, one cannot be ignored. Both of them have to go hand in hand. So physical aspect is also very important to be mentally healthy. So keep your physical health in place, which involves exercising, good sleep routine, good sleep hygiene, proper diet, abstaining from psychotropic substances like alcohol, tobacco, weed has become so very common, all these drugs. So physically healthy is also very, very important. A healthy mind lives in a healthy body. Then there's this cognitive. So, like I said, we humans are social animals. So even if a person is illiterate, is living in a remote area, still that person would like to interact with people. So social connectivity is very important, and it has been studied in so many, studies and research that how to be actually mentally healthy. The most important component is the social component. If you are socially active, if you're socially communicating, if you're socially interacting, socially contributing, you are doing a good job. Most likely you will not suffer from severe mental disorders. Most likely, if you have a healthy social life. And social life is not just about, having dinners or drinking. It is about interacting every day with people around you. People usually think social life is like, going to a club or, whatever. That is also good. But the actual social life means you say hi to your neighbor. You ask how the neighbors are doing, helping each other in the community, following up on people. If you're not hearing from a friend for long, must call up. One should not think that, oh, this person hasn't called me. Why should I be the first person to, start interacting or communicating? When we are traveling in a flight, when we are traveling in a train, in a local, talk to people around you. Don't put your earphones and, scroll on your social networking site or watch YouTube. No, be alert, be aware of immediate surroundings. That is the most important thing to be mentally healthy. Then cognition means the higher functions of brain, like your memory, your judgment, your logical reasoning. So we do run literacy campaigns, right? So this is kind of a mental literacy campaign. So to read, to learn new skills, to develop a hobby, to do little things that does not serve some immediate, returns in terms of material things. Do things that will give happiness to others. That also keeps your cognition very much in place. Smile to people. That is very, very important. People have forgotten to smile. People would be so uptight and would think, oh, if I put the serious face, I would be taken more seriously. No, smile doesn't cost a thing, but it improves your mental health first place. Suppose you are unhappy, suppose you are anxious, and when you smile, there is a response which alters your, brain mechanism and makes it release the positive hormones. And emotional aspect, like I said, 4 components: physical, cognitive, social, emotional. We are all humans and we have emotions. Share your emotions. Don't keep them locked up. Yeah.
So Rakesh had put up a virtual smile, I could see. He reciprocated your call for a smile.
Good.
As a moderator, I take this opportunity to ask a question myself. And my club members otherwise would have said why I didn't ask you a question. Well, Dr. Ruma, I would like to know, well, this is a statement as well as a question, whether we have actually complicated our lives to the extent that the mental aspect is so important now. Going back to the basics, and what you said was actually transforming us to what we were in our childhood. And most of the people who are attending here must be above 40 or 50. I think our childhood was spent more in the fields, playing activities, a lot of socializing within the family and outside the family. Most of us, I think, would agree with me. Is it because we have become too nuclear, too extremely polarized within ourselves that has led to this mental issue that is really now actually, it's now booming all across? I mean, whether it is a celebrity endorsing it or talking about it, or since we are Rotarians, we go out in the fields to work with those who suffer, we see so many other forms of mental issues which are actually not spoken about. I mean, when you go to the rural areas that we cater to, we actually, they don't even know about the concept of mental wellness that we are talking about here. So what is, to, as an expert, what would you actually pinpoint the reason why this has, we have come to this state today?
I would really want to thank you for this beautiful question. Most of the things you have answered in your question, the answers are there. Yes, we have complicated. The more, we now they say, the world has become small and, you can reach to people who are in a different continent. All this is good, but ultimately we are getting more lonelier. The more smartphones we are using, the more digital we are becoming, we are getting more lonelier. Our brain is a social brain. It needs face-to-face interaction. Like you said, we all might be in our 40s and 50s or whatever. Yes, our childhoods were better. But I just want to, make one thing which I always like to reiterate. And, mental health, when we are talking about mental health, we have to realize that our brain is part of our body. There can be a problem with your heart, and like someone asked the question, is there a test? So we are so test oriented that we want a diagnostic test to confirm that, okay, I have this problem. What I'm trying to say is mental health affects. A person can never be physically, suffering from any disease, but a person most often than not will suffer through mental problem in some phase of life. The only problem is because we don't usually do diagnostic tests, people don't want to accept. Number two that I want to, make everyone understand is, like I said, brain is part of our body. Brain is an organ. There are mechanisms going inside the brain. There are neurons, neurocircuitry, hormones that are playing a role, which affects our emotions. So what I'm trying to make you understand is mental health problems are as much biological problems as a kidney problem, cardiac problem, renal problem, liver problem. It is as much a biological problem. Whenever there is a mental health issue, people usually would say that, go for counseling, which is very good. But the more they don't understand that a lot of these issues are because something is going wrong here, which has to be corrected. When you are given a pill for your thyroid problem or your diabetes, you don't think twice, you don't question your doctor. But once you are given a pill by a psychiatrist, you think, why do I need this? Or why do my family member or my friend or my relative need this? So mind is part of this organ called brain. This is one part of it. But emotional health does get affected by social conditions also, by our environment very much. So these factors are also very important. Like you yourself said, when we were child, we would go in the playgrounds, we would play with other kids, we would not worry about, whether we drank a bottled water or, we drink from the tap. We were playing in the dirty fields. We were, floating boats in the rains. So there were not so much of hygiene and sanitation. But now what has happened is we are super aware of physical health. We don't want to go out in the open. We don't want to go out in the sun. We want to live in comfortable AC rooms. We don't want to interact with neighbors. We want our children to, just interact with children of our status. We don't want them to interact with someone who is not that socioeconomically strong. So all these factors also play a very definite negative role in shaping young minds. And young minds are all pure and beautiful, but the social conditioning that happens paints it negatively. And we are getting polarized. We are secluding ourselves. We are making, this is a voluntary, self-inflicted loneliness that we are putting on ourselves. So yes, all these factors matter because brain is very smart. It has, some that is happening inside gets transmitted in our behavior, and things outside also affects us. So it works both ways. So everything is important. Like I said, mental health is 4 components: physical, cognitive, social, and emotional. We have to take care of all this. And all these barriers that we are setting for ourselves is in fact very negative for our own self and our families and our society. So let's break these barriers. Let's go back to, previous times when we were less inhibited, when we were less fearful, when we were more inclusive. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. So any more questions? I think Shunandara had one question.
No, that's a very silly question. No need to ask.
That's a question for myself, Ruma. I have this habit of getting angry very, very fast. So is that a mental
Same
health?
pinch.
Huh?
That's hereditary, I guess.
So that is heritage. That's not a mental health problem. Tika, thank you.
No, it can be, but I also get hungry. I can eat anytime, every time.
So any
My
more
mother
questions from our guests?
All right. Thank you, Dr. Ruma. It's a lovely session you had. And since there are no more questions, I don't see any more in the chat box. Do you see any more?
You muted a lot, everybody, so you can unmute everyone so that they can at least say hello, hi. And
can we do
first the vote of thanks.
We do the vote of thanks and then unmute.
And I would like to know how many people attended.
Oh,
at a peak, it was 49 people.
Okay, not bad.
Okay, I now request that this is the part we don't want to hold you back any. I mean, I know you have your limitations also. So I'm now requesting our President-elect Rotarian Manish Naik to give the vote of thanks. Manish, all yours.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. So a big thank you to the guest speaker, Dr. Ruma Bhattacharya, to take out time to enlighten us about the topic, making mental health a global priority. Indeed, it is a high time mental health issue should be taken seriously and working towards it together. Thanks are due towards fellow club of District 3291 for being the partner club for this talk. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Manish. Okay, I'm unmuting myself so you all can interact with Dr. Ruma. How much time more we have with you?
5 minutes.
Okay.
Ruma, first, I would like to see everybody so that I can take some photographs. Can we have everybody?
Yeah.
Can you come alive
That
now?
would be great.
Yeah, so that we can take pictures. Nice to see all of you.
Okay, you can unmute yourself.
Rahul asked a question and now he's gone into darkness. Hi, Sheila. Hi, hi, Shoma. That all the presidents, Shreya. So nice to see each and every one of you. Okay, so Rahul had a question, but first let me take the photograph. Umada, can you show your face, please? Nale kalo ondhokar ashbe. He's muted himself, so he's probably not.
Through darkness shines the light. So, you know, we
Yes.
need.
Me too, show your face. Your
Hey,
cousin
Mitu.
is hiding also. Me too, show your face.
Mitu is
God
there, and your aunt is also here. Dr. Ruma, your aunt is also
Huh?
here.
Oh, very nice. Good.
I think she just went away.
Or she is gone.
Okay.
This is lovely. I'll take the second lot also. There are 2 pages. Some of them will be a repeat. Okay, smile please, everybody.
Yeah, let's all smile.
That's what our speaker has been emphasizing for the whole evening, that we must share smiles. More smiles
Yes.
required. So I think Rahul had a question. So Rahul, go ahead. Ask her before she runs away.
হ্যালো ম্যাম অ্যাকচুয়ালি
Hello.
কোয়েশ্চেন হচ্ছে যে আমরা অনেক সময় দেখি যে আমারও মানে আমার অনেক স্টুডেন্ট এরকম প্রবলেম হয়েছে, তো তাকে যখন আমি এরকম কাউন্সিলিং এর কথা বলি তো সে মানে খুব খারাপ ভাবে বা সে যেতে চায় না, তো তাকে আমি কি করে আন্ডারস্ট্যান্ড করাবো যে কাউন্সিলিংটা দরকার?
Most important is like, যদি আমরা নিজেদেরও কোনো একটা চ্যালেঞ্জিং টাইমের কথা শেয়ার করতে পারি, like if we can share our own experience when we were like teenagers or when we were college students. So, most of the times, still the stigma is so high that when you tell someone that you need counseling or you need a consultation, they feel that, oh, okay, now this is my negative points are getting highlighted and they think I'm crazy or I'm not very well up here. So the best way is like today only this gentleman came to me and he said that my wife is fighting with me a lot these days. She's shouting at the kids, she's not doing the household chores, she's going to work but she's getting very irritable. I don't know how I bring her to you. So I told him that you should not bring her to me. You both should come together, or you can tell her that, I am going through a bad phase and I need to visit a psychiatrist. So would you help me and would you come along? So what I'm trying to say is you can share your own, challenges at any point in time, and you can share the experience. So that person should not feel that he or she is being targeted or he or she is being, labeled as having a problem. So when you try to include yourself, then it helps a lot.
Thank
I
you.
hope. Yeah.
Okay, Ruma, since we have no other questions coming up, I'm going to be terminating our meeting today. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you so much. It was so lovely to spend the evening with all of you. And I'm really honored, and I thank you all from the bottom of my heart. I don't know how it really went, but I hope a little bit of the message got through.
Yes, and
It went very well. Thank you.
Everyone
Everybody
is saying
would-
it was very good and
Yes.
educational session.
And
Ruma,
Ruma,
thank
can
you
you
so
put up
much.
your what do you say, the contact, like your email ID, or if you have a website?
Yes, I will share my Skype ID on which people can connect with
Yeah, in
me
case
for
somebody
online
wants
consultation.
to discuss or consult you,
Yes.
they can
Yes.
always do that.
Please
But
do.
we need your email only for the sake of sending you the certificate, which we usually
And yes, that
give
also we
to
need.
our speaker.
Yes.
Shubhajit will send that to you. So if you could share your
I will
email ID.
do that. I will send it to you, but I will also send my Skype ID just in case anyone needs any help. I'm always there.
So why don't you just type the Skype ID on the,
In the chat box.
Okay, so I will do that. It's very simple actually. It's DRRUMA Dr. Ruma 25@gmail.com. So I'll just type it.
Just can you note it?
Chat. Yes, just a sec, yeah.
Also send your Gmail ID.
So that's the same. The Skype ID and the Gmail is the same.
Okay.
Dr. Ruma 25 at gmail.com.
DRRUMA, Dr. Ruma 25@gmail.com.
Great.
Okay. So
Thank
people
you.
can connect to me on Skype. Bye bye. Lots of love. Stay healthy. Stay emotionally healthy. Talk to people.
And keep smiling.
Keep smiling. Yes.
And
Bye
happy
bye.
Diwali to you, Dr. Uma, for a lovely session,
Yes,
and to
yes.
everybody who has come in today. Happy Diwali. In
Thank you.
advance.
Bye bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Good night. Yeah.
Keep
Good
good
night.
health. Today is Dhanteras.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, everybody. You leave?